We live with my girlfriend in her parents' house. We have enough money for rented accommodation, but my fiance's mom strongly recommended us not to move out to save money before the wedding. To be honest, my girlfriend Anna and I didn't want to spend money either, so we decided not to bother and live together for now without an official wedding. Although logically, we are already living together, but an official marriage and a stamp in the passport do not change much. We decided that if we are already comfortable in our current circumstances, we should not rush to make it official. Besides, living with her parents allowed us to save more for the future, which was important to both of us. We wanted to eventually have a beautiful wedding and maybe even start thinking about buying our own place. I have a great relationship with her mother, Margaret. Margaret is a little overweight, but that doesn't stop her from leading an active lifestyle. She spends most of her time in front of the TV watching exercise videos on YouTube. It's impressive how she manages to stick to her daily routine. She seems to genuinely enjoy it, and I can tell it makes her feel good about herself. Her husband, David, works shifts and is often away. He usually stays home for 2 months and then works another. When he's home, he doesn't do much around the house, but he makes good money. I think that's why Margaret loves him. We've been living with them for about 2 months now, and in that time I've done more housework than David. Still, I like him. He's a quiet guy, and I respect the fact that he works hard to provide for his family. When he's around, he tells interesting stories from his work, and I understand why Margaret fell in love with him. Margaret loves me like a native son and always praises me. I like her too. I'm attracted to overweight women. Anna is chubby too, but not as much as her mother. Sometimes I imagine what Margaret would be like in bed. Fantasize about those spontaneous scenes in the movies. It's not something I ever planned to do, but it's been on the back of my mind. There's a certain charm about Margaret, and her confidence is attractive. One day I was at home and about to head to the gym when Margaret asked me to keep her company for a workout. She turned on a YouTube video, as usual, and I joined her. It was a very different workout from what I was used to, but I decided to go along with it. To be honest, I admired her fitness. Despite her full figure, she remained strong and motivated. It wasn't just her body, but her determination and energy. I tried to touch her gently, politely, and Margaret smiled. She seemed to enjoy it. She even encouraged me to touch her more often. When the warmth of her hands met mine, my breathing quickened. I was wearing gym shorts, and it was clear to see how it was all affecting me. Margaret probably noticed, but she didn't let on. There was tension in the air, but it wasn't discomforting. It felt like we were both testing the waters, testing how far we could go without crossing the line. We were supposed to be doing abdominal muscle exercises, and she lay down next to me to do them. At one point, she stopped while I continued, and to motivate me, she took hold of my legs. The tension rose greatly, and I struggled to keep going. Margaret was watching me with a smile on her face, directing the situation in a way that I couldn't resist. Her hands on my legs were both supportive and intimate, and I could feel my pulse quicken. Soon she took the lead, and I just lay there, drifting into my own little dream. The way she looked at me, the way she smiled. She seemed to know exactly what was going on in my head, and she didn't mind. It was like a game we both secretly enjoyed. When we were done, she kissed me gently on the cheek, thanked me for the workout, and went to shower, while I just lay there for a while longer, thinking about everything that had happened. I couldn't help but replay the moment over and over in my head. There was something thrilling about it, something that made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt before. I knew this was dangerous territory, but part of me wanted to explore it further. Margaret was still just my future mother-in-law, but after that day, our relationship took on a new dimension. No longer was it just friendly involvement or help around the house. There was an unspoken bond, a kind of understanding that we both seemed to share. Later that evening, we all sat down to dinner together. Margaret, David, Anna, and I. Margaret acted completely normal, as if nothing had happened. She laughed and joked with everyone, and I couldn't help but admire how easily she could switch from one role to another. Anna seemed happy, completely unaware of what had happened between her mother and me. David was in one of his usual good moods, telling stories from his work. I was feeling a mixture of emotions: guilt, excitement, curiosity. I kept casting glances at Margaret, and every time our eyes met, She gifted me with a knowing smile. It was as if we shared a secret that no one at the table knew about. After dinner, Anna and I went to our room, and she talked about her plans for the future our wedding, where we might go on our honeymoon, all the usual things. I tried to concentrate, but my thoughts kept going back to practicing with Margaret. I wondered if she was thinking about it too, if she was lying in bed reviewing everything like I was. Just thinking about it made my heart pound. I knew I had to be careful. I loved Anna, and I didn't want to hurt her. But there was something about Margaret that I couldn't ignore, something that drew me in. It was like a fire that had been lit. I didn't know how to put it out. That night, lying in bed next to Anna, I thought about what might happen next. Would Margaret and I continue to push the boundaries? Would we pretend nothing had happened? I didn't know, but I couldn't wait to find out. The uncertainty was both frightening and exciting, and I was eager to see what would happen next. Life with Anna's parents was much more complicated than I'd anticipated, and I had a feeling things were only going to get more tense from here on out.